Three areas: connect, equip, and restore. That's where we started with One City. Really, the first place that we started as we formed up as a nonprofit was with a community connection app. The purpose of this was really because we were working with so many men, especially men, some women too, that were coming out of incarceration that were handed a big resource book when they left the facility or left prison or left the jail that directed them to different resources. But the challenge is that many times as soon as the resource was printed, it was already out of date, or it was lacking information, lacking material that needed to be included in it. And so we created a community connection app that connects people to basic resources they may need just to attain self-sufficiency. It connects them to everything from real-time bus routes to food sources, to housing, to churches that have programs, to any service, any resource, any organization or agency that has put their information into this app, that people can get on it and use it. And with Waterloo being one of the most diverse cities in Iowa, with more than 50 languages and more than 80 dialects spoken here, we wanted to do it on a Google platform so that it could be it automatically translates in every available Google language, which was really important to us, so that everybody could use it in the community. And it's just been highly successful. And we've seen people return from the facility and be able to connect and get resources, know where the bus stops are, even if they're not from Waterloo. I don't know if you're familiar, but many people return to Waterloo that are not from Waterloo. They return through the work release facility to get a new start at a new city, and they don't really know where anything's at. So this has been very, very crucial in helping people connect and get involved in the community, to find resources, agencies, orgs that can be of assistance to them. The second thing that we really got started early on was the street outreach. And this is really important because it's important for us to not only have the knowledge of what's going on and the knowledge of what the needs are in the city, but to be able to experience what people's needs are, to understand with an experiential level what's going on in someone's life, and to develop relationships. So our street outreach is every Monday and Thursday night. Monday nights are at the Family Dollar on Franklin, and Thursday evenings are at the Prime Mart on Broadway. That's where the shootings have happened recently. And the purpose of that, really understand the hopes, the needs, the dreams of people, direct them to the resources they may need, hand out information about community programs. But ultimately, it benefits us to really experience what people are going through. Knowledge is great, but without experience, we really come up short in understanding the deep need and how we can really benefit and journey with people. One of the things that we have committed ourselves to from the very beginning is a journey with people. Not just have a program that would give them the help they need and then spit them out the other end and say good luck, but to really journey through life with them, to continue to connect with them, to continue to support and encourage. And that's what our outreaches are really about, is to connect with people and just understand. The second area, and this is when we went to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and met with Urban Alliance. We spent a lot of time up there, and the reason we spent time up there is because, again, knowledge is great, and understanding what they did was fantastic. But we went to Kalamazoo and really experienced firsthand what they were doing. At that time, they had been 6 years already doing what they did with momentum, and we started to talk to people that had graduated and understood what they had experienced and understood what their life was like now. By that time, they had, I think, helped 350 people get into quality employment, transform their lives. And it's just been an amazing experience to work with Urban Alliance. So in September 2019, we signed an agreement to bring momentum to Waterloo, to pilot it here with their assistance and with their immense knowledge, with their curriculum, with their experience, and really just work with people that have significant barriers to employment. And that's what momentum is really about. It's about training people. It's about coaching. It's about networking. It's about employment. It's about we've talked about it as an employment program, but really momentum is a life transformation program. I talk to employers every day about unemployment and about employment, and And one of the things that they tell me is we just need bodies. And I try to help them understand, yeah, you need bodies, but you need bodies that are going to stay. You need bodies that are quality employees that will be loyal to you, and they can stay long term. You can cut down on your turnover rates and all those things. So a little bit about Momentum. It's a 6-week life transformation employment program. It runs from 9 to 12:30 Monday through Fridays, and it runs for 6 weeks. It's intense. We have if you ask any graduate from Momentum, is it what you expected it to be? They will all get big eyes and say no. They didn't expect it to be as intense as it is. It is, they have to engage in 100 hours of community service along with the classes, and it's really about getting them ready for the workplace. They can't miss more than 3 times. We really wanted them to kind of it be like an employment situation where they don't miss more than 3 times. They can't be late more than 3 times, or the contract they've signed with us to be committed is then void. So the beautiful thing about this is, as many as we've had graduate from our program, we've had some that didn't graduate, that in week 3 or 4, they had to drop out for one reason or another, but we always keep the door open. It's never closed. They can always come back and reapply for another term. And we've had half a dozen people that have not made it through their first term, but have come back with a new level of commitment, have graduated, and at our graduation ceremonies, the most tears are with the ones that have come through a second time because they know what it's cost them. They understand the level of commitment they've had to have for their own life to get through a second time. Qualifications to get into Momentum, it's not necessarily easy to get in. They have to have 2 or more barriers to employment, and very significant barriers. It can be a past criminal background. It can be past substance abuse, transportation challenges, childcare, homelessness, generational poverty, ageism, single parents, unemployed, underemployed. But they have to be significant barriers. The population we serve is many times a noticed population, but not necessarily seen, if that makes sense. Many people see someone as they drive by every day, but they don't really notice what is going on in their life. And so what we do is through our street outreach, through different programs and agencies and orgs around the city, we get referrals, and people come to attend an open enrollment, which is the week before the classes start. And they come in and they do an application. They have to go through 2 interviews. We're gauging their commitment level. We're gauging, if they have significant barriers to employment. Because if they don't have real significant barriers to employment, we're not really we're not a placement agency. That's not what we do. We transform lives. We help people to overcome some of their barriers and equip them to continue to overcome barriers. So they have to have 2 or more really significant barriers, and 2 or more, and a high commitment level to complete the program. We do drug tests. We drug test 3 times throughout the program. We want to ensure employers that they've made a strong commitment. Some of the classes that we offer, and this is not all inclusive, but some of the classes we offer, employment readiness, communication, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, time management, computer basics, career exploration. The whole idea is, and these classes are built, and they're built in a way that it takes people from step 1 through week 6 and just prepares them to overcome their barriers in life. The first 2 weeks are really about, who am I? How did I get to where I am in life? How did I find myself in the place that I am right now, where I have all these barriers? And that's a tough time, because it's a force to look in the mirror and understand myself, understand my life, and really own what's going on in my life. The second 2 weeks really gear on, who can I be? And that's when the transformational part really begins. We really try to get them to stop looking in the mirror and just see themselves, but to really turn around and notice this entire big world there is, how all different people can all get along together in relationship, and work together and be together and thrive together. Many times students that come in are in a survival mode. They're day to day. They're trying to just get by day to day. And what we're doing is we're creating enough hope in their lives that they can get past surviving and move into this life that they can thrive. So the beauty of it really is that we can create hope, number one, and then match that with opportunity, number two, which is a great career. So we give ongoing support. This is a lifetime journey. So many of our graduates come back in, and we've had graduates that come back in and facilitate classes. We have graduates that come in and share their story with another class. We have graduates that come back to volunteer. We have graduates come back to graduate. We had probably 12 graduates that came back to our graduation we had Saturday night. And two reasons they come back. One is to support the new graduates, but number two is to rekindle that fire that they felt for 6 weeks while they were in class. And they just walk out empowered all over again. So we cultivate relationships with employers who will, number one, interview, and number two, will hire. And we have a business network that we put together of different businesses that have really good work cultures, have really good environments, and I don't want to call them second chance employers. They're employers who really want to employ quality people that are talented, that are loyal, and that will work their tails off for them, right? So that's our business network, and it's really important that that we just continue to work with, support, encourage, and stay with these people, and really journey with them for a lifetime. And that is really what we're about. You're going to hear me say it over and over. We journey with people. We journey with people, and that I think is the power of momentum. Is that we not only help them to create hope and belief in their talent and their value and their worth, but we believe with them. And we journey with them, and we continue to journey with them in life. Some of our stats were 48% African American, 46% white, 6% Latino that have come through our classes that have graduated. 47% women and 53% men. 84% have been incarcerated. 84% have had past substance abuse. 80% have had transportation challenges. That's just crazy high, right? 80% from generational poverty, 85% unemployed, 30% unstable housing or have been completely homeless. So those are some of the significant barriers that we see as people come in and as we go through class and as we pour into people. The beauty of momentum, really another part of that is we have between 24 and 30 people from the community that come in and facilitate classes. As Michelle says, she said, if I stood up there all day long and did every class, I'd be like the Peanuts wah, 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 wah teacher. And so we bring people in that are experts, people that are masters, social workers, and business people. And we bring in all kinds of people that can really pour into these, into people that are struggling. And some of their best memories are someone they connected with from the community that came in and poured into their life. So it's just amazing. Here are some of our stats from class. We have a 67% graduation rate, a 92% job placement rate, a 94% 90-day job retention rate, with an average starting wage of $16.60 an hour, which is going up after this last graduation class because many people are getting jobs much higher than that. Many of our graduates that were previously incarcerated, they're anywhere from $16 to $24 an hour. And they're just killing it. They're doing great work. Employers love them. And I think one of the greatest stats we have is a 0% recidivism rate. And that's those that would reoffend and go back to prison or jail again. With the rate currently in Black Hawk County at 46% recidivism rate, a 0% rate is pretty good. And that's really our heart, is to help men and women to get to a place in life, to thrive in life, where they don't feel that they have no hope and they end up reoffending and going back to prison. We want to get that number in Black Hawk County. We want to half it in the next few years. We want to see it halved. We want to see it down below 10%. We want to see people thriving and pouring into our community and pouring into our economies. Restore. That's our third focus that we have at One City. We did a We Build Waterloo program with Hawkeye Community College and Iowa Works that was highly successful. We partnered with them the end of 2019. We actually, through some really crazy happenings, One City ended up with a house that was in disrepair and really needed a lot of work. And Hawkeye had a desire to do a WeBuild program for students that were 18 to 24 years old. And so we partnered up. It was to create a pathway to higher education or full-time employment. It was to have cohorts of 5 to 6 students, and each cohort would be 12 weeks, and they spent the first month in class getting your CCER building credentials. They got their OSHA 10 certifications. Students walked out with 8 or 10 certificates and an accreditation. And then they went into 8 weeks of on-the-site construction experience. Out of that, the last stats that I heard, 84% were either in higher education or in full-time employment, somewhere in the trades. I know one young lady that came through ended up deciding that she really wasn't into the construction thing, but she really got excited about design and engineering. So she ended up applying at Iowa State and got accepted in the engineering school, which was pretty fantastic as well. So the WeBuild program, very successful. We ended up selling the home to someone who had barriers as well, which was our goal in the end, was to work with people who had barriers and then to sell the home to someone who had barriers, which was just a fantastic ending to a great story. So in development, this is something that you've heard me talk about: incarceration a lot, recidivism a lot, and there's a reason for that. That's always been our heart, is to really work and really help and really serve men and women that are returning from incarceration and really empower them to not go back. This is something that we have in development that we're working towards in the next year or two, and that's really to start a reentry house for 6 to 8 men returning from county jail or from prison. The idea behind this has been through all of our research and just all of the work and the service that we've done to men and women returning, that they have some pretty immediate needs when they return. Number one is really safe, quality housing. When you return and you don't have anything, and not only do you not have anything, the only place you can really go to live would be with some friends that you lived with before you went to prison, or some family that you lived with before you went to prison, or wherever that might be. Instead of going back into that situation that may end up being a bad situation for you, we want to have a house that's a safe environment, that's a structured environment to help men reintegrate into society. The second big barrier men and women have returning is an immediate job, and having the money available to be able to live for 2 or 3 weeks until they get their first check. It's a real struggle. It's a real challenge. The third thing is really transportation. When you come out of prison, and many times you've lost your license when you went into prison, and you have no way to get around. You don't have a car. You don't have a license. You have no way to have transportation. The third thing is to have transportation available for them to get where they need to go. And number two is to have all the supporting services, the wraparound services, to come to them to support them in the house. So that's something that is on our radar, something that we really want to get done. It's going to take more organizations to partner with us and some fundraising and things like that. But that is really something that will happen. It's just a matter of time before we can put all the pieces together for that to come to bear. The thing about people returning from incarceration is if we can remove the immediate barriers of housing, job, and transportation, it gives them the opportunity to focus on their personal development, and they don't have to focus on all of the immediate pressures that come at release. So again, that's just a real big passion of ours and something that will happen. Some of the facts real quickly, and I'm going to tell you a story or two as well. Some of the facts: the cost to house someone for 1 year in prison, either state or federal prison, is between $35,000 and $45,000 a year. OCU momentum, because of our 0% recidivism rate and 84% of our participants having a criminal background, by the end of 2022, we will have saved the state of Iowa more than $800,000. I'm not greedy. I don't want it all, but I wouldn't mind having half of that, right, to go back in the program. But that's huge. It's a huge economic draw on our state, on our community. And it's also a huge draw and a huge detriment to men and women that are returning to offend and go back. Number two is that Momentum grads, and I should have seen this coming, but I guess I really didn't, not in the way I should have. But the beauty of the Momentum program is they become great employees, but that transfers into a home life. That transfers into conflict resolution, how they have their relationships at home with their friends, with their family, with their neighborhoods. And we have seen so many cases of Momentum graduates becoming these great employees, and then at home things change. They approach everything differently, and the quality of life is so much greater. And the impact of Momentum is being felt now, but it's really going to be felt in the next 20 years, 10, 20, 30 years. This is a generational impact of this program that is going to impact families and kids. Kids are going to graduate high school that had never graduated high school before. They're going to go to college who never had any dreams of going to college. I just heard a stat recently, last week, that the way it looks, 1 in 3 African-American men will graduate high school in Waterloo. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. That's so wrong. This program will impact in so many ways that will impact generations. And that's why we're really excited about it. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories real quick. And I may have changed the names to protect the innocent, but Troy came through Momentum the middle of last year, and Troy had been in prison for 18 years. He went to the work release facility. He got to a point where he had a couple hours of furlough time that were available to him, and Troy said, I walked out the door of the facility because I said, you mean I can leave? And they said, yeah, you can leave. You need to leave for 2 hours and go do something. He said, I walked out the door and I got to the first step and I sat down and I had this panic attack I'd never experienced in my life. Because for 18 years, I had never been unsupervised. I had never had my own ability to do anything I wanted to do for 2 hours. And emotionally, I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what to do. And he said, all I could think as I sat there was, I've got to go back. I've got to go back. I don't know what else to do. Well, the next day we were in the work release facility talking to a bunch of guys about the Momentum program, and Troy heard about it. And he said, I've got to try this. So he came into open enrollment. He got into Momentum. He graduated. And as we were driving around one day in the truck talking, he told me, he said, if it hadn't been for Momentum, I know I would have gone back, just because emotionally, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle everything coming at me. And the beauty of this is I just learned that Troy just got engaged to his high school sweetheart. They'll be married this summer. Troy's life is thriving, and he is so excited and so excited about what his future holds. Second story I want to tell you is about somebody named, I'll call him Michael. Michael had been in and out of prison most of his life. When asked what his address has been in the past, he said, I can give you 5 or 6, and they're all prisons. And Michael was just struggling. He didn't have a good relationship with his girlfriend, didn't have a relationship with his son. Michael enrolled in Momentum. He made it 3 days in term 2, and then he got a charge. He got a charge for, it was kind of a trumped up thing, but he ended up going back to jail for 60 days. But while Michael was in jail, he told everybody about Momentum and how it was changing his life after just 3 days. And we started getting phone calls from the county jail, everybody wanting to get into Momentum. Michael came out, he got back into Momentum on the 4th day of class, so he didn't miss anything. And Michael graduated. We were driving around one day and Michael said, you know, my girlfriend called and she was being pretty harsh with me. And I thought, what would Dean told me how to handle this. How would Dean do this? And he said, so I just started telling her, I understand. I know you're hurting. I understand what's going on. Yeah, that's got to be really hard. He said, at the end of the conversation, she thanked me for talking to her. He said, I never would have handled that way before. Now Michael has custody of his son. His son is living with him, and Michael is he's on cloud nine with life, and he's thriving. It's been an amazing, amazing, amazing journey. We benefit so much more than our graduates do by just being around these amazing, strong, talented, valuable people. And it's just been an amazing journey, an amazing ride. One of the questions is, how often do we start Momentum class? We do 5 terms a year. We have 6 weeks. Then we have 3 weeks off, which gets us prepared for the next class to do open enrollment. It's from the middle of January to the middle of November. It's full on all the time. So it's really good. We have 2 staff right now. Funding has come from different funders, different foundations, corporations, private donations. It's never enough, because one of the things that Momentum is built on is that we really make sure that we do classes in the neighborhood that we serve. It's important for us. It's really important for us to be embedded in our community that we serve. Transportation being a large issue for people, for them to be able to get to class, is really important. And so we embed in the community. And one of the things we want to do is we want to start another location, another set of classes in another place, probably the west side of Waterloo, so that, number one, we can stagger our classes so availability is better for people. And number two, because the need is so great. I said this is kind of an unseen population many times. The challenge is that many times they have the barriers that they have. There's actual physical barriers people have, and there's also perceived barriers. And the perceived barriers are many times much harder to overcome than the actual physical barriers. We can help people with food, we can help people with housing, we can help people with childcare. But when you believe that because of your race, because of your background, because of many things that have happened in life, that you can't do this, you can't have this job, this job is not for you, those are so hard to overcome. And that requires, helping people to see how valuable they are, how worthy they are, how much talent they have, how they can to raise that hope to a level where they believe in themselves and we can believe with them. So what is the average? I think you're probably asking, what is the average age of the individuals we work with? Believe it or not, any of you guys on here will know this is true. Over 25 is usually much more successful, especially if we get under 25-year-old guys. They think they got this and they can handle it, and they can make it all happen for themselves. And I know I was when I was under 25. Usually it takes someone, being beat up by life enough that they'll admit, I need help. I need some help to be able to get through this. I need someone to journey with me through this. And so I would say our average age is right around 35 years old right now. I have to take into account our last term that I haven't really calculated in yet, but it's 35 to 40 years old is very much our average age, the most successful age to go through. We've had some younger ones make it through. But we've actually had somebody that was 67 years old that graduated that had 25 years in federal prison. He just got a great job that he just loves. They love him. He just said, I just got out of prison, I've got to work. And so, yeah, there is no age that's too great, and there is no age that is too young, other than it must be 18 to begin. But I see the most successful age is between 35 and 40 years old, just because they've been beat up by life. And we've all been in those places where we've been beat up by life, and we need someone to journey with us. Another question says, transportation issues, how are they getting to class? Well, we transport. We help people get to class. We transport people to and from class. So again, that's another resource that puts us on thin ice many days, but we do provide transportation to people. Unfortunately, our transportation system is not very good as far as our buses and things in town, and many times it can take people an hour and a half as they transfer buses to be able to get to class. So So we've made the commitment to transport people to and from class to make sure they can get here. We transport to job interviews and things like that as well. How can the community best support? We have a lot of needs. One of the main ways you can really support is if you have an area of focus that you'd like to facilitate a class, to pour your life into students, to share your experience, your life experience with them, or maybe you've had some barriers and you've overcome. That's a great way to contact me or Michelle and just say, hey, I'd be interested in coming in and facilitating a class. Another way would be to mentor or coach. We like to match each of our Momentum students with a coach that will walk through with them. Many times, if somebody doesn't know what they don't know, if I haven't been taught something in my life or I haven't experienced something in my life and they don't know what they don't know, it's a challenge for me to change. So to have a coach, a mentor that will walk through as they go through class with them, to encourage, to say, yeah, that is hard, but you know what? We can't live in the urgent all the time. We have to live in the important. And the important thing is you complete this class and you complete this 6 weeks and you graduate Momentum, just to be that encouragement. And then as they start into employment, many times graduates their biggest anxiety is day one of a job, because they don't know if they're going to be accepted. They don't know if they're going to be able to do the job. They don't know if they're going to get reprimanded. The fear of failure looms large. And sometimes one of the greatest fears is being challenged or failing. And so to be that coach, that person that will uplift them and say, yeah, I know it's hard, but you know what? This is what employers expect and this is why. And you can do this. And all those things that a coach can do, I always say high in grace, low in judgment, right? Just to be that person that will lift them up and help them get through and help them understand what it means to really be successful and to really thrive, and to be that sounding board where they can just let loose and let you have it instead of talking to their employer about it, and then to counsel them through it. You don't have to be a counselor. You just have to be a person, right? You have to be somebody that will support them. So that's the best ways that you can support us. Of course, it costs about $2,500 to get a person from day one through 90 days of employment. That's kind of the cost per student. So we're looking at doing scholarships for Momentum seats and Momentum. If you're a part of a company that would like to support through scholarships, that would be great. If you can do it individually, that's great too. But yeah, we do accept scholarships for Momentum seats. And that doesn't mean that you'll get that employee. That just means that you're supporting the program, you're supporting people that really have barriers, and supporting them in that $2,500 that it takes to get them through. Because this is a free program for everyone that comes through. We do a maximum of 12 students per class. Urban Alliance, I know they experimented early on with having more students in class, and they had 16, I think, in one class. And they said the challenge was that they split up into two groups, kind of. That's a natural human nature thing, is if a group gets too big, you split into two factions, and it really hurt the connectivity and the fellowship that really happens in the support system that happens in class. So we go maximum of 12, which really develops a strong support system for each other. I remember a student telling me in term 2, he said, when you talked about, because I do teach a couple of classes, and I just, one of the things I talk about is you have to separate yourself from the poison, whatever that is in life, whether it's a chemical or whether it's a physical or it's a relationship, whatever it is. And he said, I've separated myself from most of my friends because they were always dragging me down, but I've redeveloped new friendships in this class that will be lifetime friendships, that will be a lifetime support system for me. And I just thought that's exactly what this program is supposed to do. It's supposed to develop a new support system that will help you through the rest of your life. What can employers do to help reduce barriers for employees? Figure out this transportation struggle. That's huge. I've really been talking with employers, trying to understand from their point of view, as well as help them understand from our point of view, how important it is that they help with this transportation struggle. Because if someone doesn't have the money to get a car or to pay for insurance, but they need a job and they get a job, how are they supposed to get to and from work? If employers could support for even 60 days and help with the cost of transportation for employees to get to work and back home again, they could bank enough, they could save enough money that they could actually begin to get a car, get insurance, pay for gas. Many times with men and women returning from incarceration, they've lost their license for any number of reasons, and they can't get that license back until all their fines and penalties are paid. So it's kind of a system that instead of letting them out of the cycle, it kind of holds them in the cycle. So transportation is enormous. We need to get this figured out. It's one of the biggest barriers for people that are returning from incarceration, especially just to be able to get to and from work on a consistent basis. Because I hear so many stories of men and women telling me, my friend was taking me to and from work, but then we had a beef, we got into it, we had an argument, and they said, I'm not taking you to work anymore. So they lose their job because they have no way to get back and forth to work. Our bus system only runs from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you have to be to work at 6 a.m., you can't get there. If you have to work a second shift job, you can get there, but you can't get home. If you work a third shift job, you can't get there, but you can get home. We need to increase our public transit system, and that would really make a big difference as well. Question from Rose says, will employers continue to step up and work with formerly incarcerated individuals in the next recession? On a similar note, an Iowa Works employee once commented that employers abandoning inquiries into van pool and on-site childcare and the workers who would benefit from them once next recession hits. That's part of the challenge, with employers, and I do get it. I do understand that. They don't want to set a precedent of transporting employees because right now it is an employee market and employees are kind of driving what employers have to do to get employees. But if something happens to where unemployment goes to 7 or 8% again, that'll put the employers back in a position instead of employees. So employers don't initially want to start a program that they may have to continue. And I get that, it's a cost, but I advocate for the employees. So my idea is that we really continue to work with employers to help them see that they can have great employees if they will be part of the solution. And it's not a fight, it's not a battle, it's just doing what's right. One of the things we can all agree on, it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're on, if you're extremely fiscally conservative or if you're extremely progressive, it doesn't matter. We all can agree that when people overcome barriers and they're gainfully employed and they're thriving in life, that crime goes down, that our economy is better, and that it's really good for families and it's really good for a city. So we can all agree on that. So we're always trumpeting the fact that we all can work together. We all can solve these struggles. We all can overcome these challenges. We can't just work legislatively from the top down. We have to work from the bottom up as well. We have to work with people and serve people that really have barriers and help them to be healthy. If we can help them be healthy, we have an entirely healthy city. We can't just have a healthy, quote unquote, top tier and forget about an entire population. So that's our heart, and that's where we come from every day and what we do every day.
Are there
any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, are there any other questions? You beat me to it. Dean, I just wanted to point out the one thing that has stuck with me in your talk today is the notion that you journey with people. Yeah. So many organizations are trying to do so many great things, but in categorical form, right? Or in compartmentalized form. And walking the walk with someone is just so important. So
I think that can work. I mean, I think that can work if, as organizations and agencies, we'll collaborate together.
Right. Yeah.
We collaborate with a lot of different organizations because many times when people come into Momentum, they need to get involved with other agencies and orgs because they have some things they need to work through. We're not counselors. People need mental health counseling. People need physical things. They need medical care. There's so many things that people need that if we can work together as organizations and agencies and collaborate together, then we can do what our one focus is, as long as we're collaborating and working with other agencies that can pick it up and continue. We need to journey with people as organizations together collaboratively. One organization, we do it because out of necessity, because it's really a necessity that we journey with people. And we have other organizations that are with us in that, and they do the same thing. But if we could get citywide organizations collaborating together, multiple organizations working with individuals as they begin to thrive, then people learn how they can be part of that puzzle for someone else, and they can help other people thrive. Something we talk about every day is what we do is we teach, train, and equip. We teach knowledge because knowledge is important. People don't know what they don't know. Then we train them in the systems they need to apply that knowledge in their life. Then we equip them, so we don't always have to be training them how to overcome. They can learn the system so they can overcome in their own life, and then they can do that for other people as well. And I just believe that's the road to making a transformed Waterloo.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions before we work toward wrapping up today?
I have one, Lori. I wanted to jump in and ask a little bit more about reentry.
Yes.
I don't hear, it's funny because there's probably other organizations collaborating in this space, but I don't personally know of them. And I'm just curious, who else is working with individuals in reentry? And additionally, I'm curious if you're looking toward, is there any kind of formal collaborative relationship that you can have with the justice system? Is there anything else kind of happening in that space to help people reintegrate well?
There is. There are other organizations doing work. Hawkeye is doing some great work right now, Hawkeye College, with their Ignite program and doing some of that. With people that have been in incarceration long-term, there really isn't, there are no real reentry programs, so to speak. People are doing spotty work. People are doing some great work in different organizations and agencies, but they're really, the challenge with reentry, I guess that many maybe don't understand if you haven't experienced it and haven't journeyed with people that are returning, are those immediate needs. It's great to be able to offer college programs for somebody or programs for someone, but if they don't have a license and they don't have anywhere to live and they don't have a job and they don't have any money, it's that buffer that needs to happen. It's that integrating piece where they need someone to help them figure things out again. With Troy, the name that I use with Troy, after 18 years, he didn't know what to do. And he needed someone to journey with him for a while so he could get his feet on the ground and actually make some money and actually be able to build his own structures, build his own boundaries, and really build his own life so he could thrive. And without that buffer, without that extra support in that initial period, that's why many guys go back, because they just don't know how to handle everything being thrown at them. He said, what you learn in prison is that you don't show any emotion, because if you show emotion, it's weakness, and you don't want anybody to know what's going on in your head or in your heart. And so you learn to be emotionless, and you come out and everybody's asking you how you're feeling, how's it going? He said it's emotional overload. You don't know what to do. So what we're really looking at is a system that can really help guys to be that buffer, to be that integration piece, to where they can get their feet on the ground, get everything going in the right direction in life, and so they can thrive. And there aren't any reentry, quote unquote, reentry housing programs in Waterloo, period. I know there have been a few in the past. They didn't last long. It's again, many times men and women in prison are kind of an unseen population that are kind of forgotten, and you only hear about it when they reenter, and through many circumstances and situations they end up reoffending, and then you hear about it. So yeah, does that make sense?
There's one more question in the chat, Dean.
Have rigid attendance policies ever been identified as a barrier to workers who do face transportation and childcare challenges? rigid attendance policies at work. I guess, Rose, could you kind of expound on that? Like, you mean rigid attendance policies at work? Yeah, I think that's one of the things that many employers are figuring out, is that they have to be a bit flexible. They have to be flexible with employees that you know, I know we talk about all the time too. I talk about it with younger guys all the time. You know, when I was growing up, that was back when, you know, God created dirt. But when I grew up, it was this thing of, you went to work, you did your thing, you worked hard, you came home, your evenings were yours, your weekends were yours. You just did it, right? You sacrificed family, you did whatever you had to do, and you just went to work. Well, it's different now. People do put a high value on family and family time, and being at kids programs at school, and all those things that go along with it, right? And employers are figuring out they can't be quite so rigid, that they have to give people an opportunity to do things, that there's life outside of work, that for somebody to work 70 hours a week in this day and age is probably not going to happen, and people won't even take a job like that. We've seen that on the backside of COVID. Many people aren't going back to work. They've learned to live much simpler lives, and they said, we don't need two people working. We can live simpler, and we can have more family time, and we don't need this. So employers will need to, as we go forward, employers will need to adapt to this new way of living that COVID has really brought about, and they're going to have to be more flexible. They're going to have to be more flexible if somebody has a sick child, and understand that that's a really important part of life for somebody. And so, yeah, it has been barrier for sure, the rigid policies. And yeah, are previous deaths a huge barrier, such as child support, owed court fees? Absolutely. I was in Des Moines talking to one of Governor Reynolds' top policy advisors in December about this very thing, that, you know, why do we have policies in place that if someone gets picked up on 3 drug charges that have nothing to do with driving, and they had a license when they entered prison, why don't they have their license when they return? It wasn't a driving offense. It wasn't something that they did that you know, they didn't outrun police or anything like that. They didn't get a charge on a vehicular charge. Why did they lose their license? Because once they return, they have to pay off all these penalties and fines before they can even get their license back, which keeps them from being able to drive to work and all the things that they need to do, right? And to drive to the PO's office, all the things that they need to do in a day, they can't do. So yes, those debts are a huge draw and a huge barrier to people being able to go to work, being able to just live a life and thrive, for sure. We had somebody that came through Momentum that had $16,000 in fines that had to be paid off before he can get his license back. Huge struggle. You know, you want to put up a big wall in front of somebody and say you're not going to succeed. That's a way to do it. And so I've been talking to legislators to try to find a way legislatively to overcome that, and we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping in the next 2 or 3 years we can get some legislation passed that will make a big difference in that area. I'll throw in some ideas out there. I'll throw it out to you guys. Maybe you can do the same thing. One of my ideas is, you know, instead of having guys go back and spend $35,000 to $45,000 a year to house them, why not give them a provincial license for a year? And if they make all their payments on their fines for a year, that you make it a full license and you pay off their fines. Then they're free and clear. You're not paying $35,000 to $45,000 to reincarcerate them again. You'll be money ahead. So we'll see where it goes. That's what I've been proposing. We'll see what happens with that. I don't have a big voice, but I squeak a lot. So we'll see where it goes.
Dean, thank you so much for your hard work and important work you're doing in our community, and for spending time with us today educating about One City United. So we are at our almost at the end of our time today. Oh, 2 more questions or 2 more things. Where can people give, Dean, to support your organization? And then Rose did respond that would be great legislation. Go for it.
Yeah, you can jump on our website, onecitycv.org, and there's a place there that you can donate. Stop by One City office, 907 Independence Avenue. We'd love to see you. We just yeah, we love to talk. I love to talk about One City and what we're doing. I love to talk about the success of the people that come through our program. That's why we do what we do, is the outcomes. It's period. I want to see a transformed Waterloo. I want to see a really healthy Waterloo. I want to see a thriving Waterloo, and that starts with thriving people.
Well, your passion is evident. So keep up the awesome and important work.
Yeah.
As before we close today, just want to remind everyone of our upcoming Windows on Waterloo. In April, Steve Kerrigan with the Gallagher Blue Dorn Performing Arts Center will be with us, and he is going to talk about a unique collaborative project that involves the Waterloo Community Playhouse, the Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony, the Cedar Falls Community Theater, and Gallagher Blue Dorn. So that should be interesting. And then in May, David Eckert, who is the new executive director at the Waterloo Public Library, will be joining us. So I wish everyone a great day and a good rest of the week.